Good afternoon, or whatever time of day it may be for you, wherever in the world you are. Hi everyone, my name's Christian Barker, broadcasting to you live from my living room here in salubrious 6th Avenue, Singapore. And today I will be speaking with a great friend of mine, name of Jaelle Ang. And Jaelle is the CEO and co-founder of certainly one of the most refined and sophisticated co-working in the world. Name of the Great Room originated here in Singapore back in 2016, and yeah, now has expanded beyond Singapore into Hong Kong, Thailand, and yeah, growing right across Southeast Asia. Jaelle will be with us in a moment. Just got cut off a second ago there. Hope everyone's well today. Troublesome times in the world, but we persevere. Jaelle is connecting with us now. Hi there, Jaelle. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Christian.
Good to be speaking with you.
I know. I haven't seen you in a long time.
I know. Well, yeah, it's lucky I did manage to nip out for a haircut on the weekend, which, as you'll be aware, we haven't been allowed to have those for a little while, and certainly no color retouching or perms or anything like that. Though I don't go for those, but
I'm a bit
yeah.
luckier. I have long hair, so it hasn't been too bad. But I've been a barber to my husband and the boys, so I've been acquiring new skills and cutting hair.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, we're all acquiring new skills and finding new ways of navigating the world at the moment. I must say, I like what you've done with the setup there for the imagery, and you know, that's something that we're going to be talking about in this conversation a little bit about yeah, how we lead a company or deal with our colleagues and things in this new world. Have you been keeping busy with a lot of these Zoom calls and this sort of thing?
Oh, it's been very busy from kind of like, not really learning how to use Zoom to now just doing so much on Zoom. Difficult
Yeah.
conversations, team meetings. We've had a whiskey tasting, we had a pizza party. So it feels like so much of my life is lived on Zoom now.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's the same for a lot of people.
Yeah, most certainly. It's a very different thing to working face to face, and you know, I was just I don't know if you caught the introduction, but I was saying that that, you know, obviously describing a little bit about your background. But I first met Jaelle many years ago when she was working developing the Four Seasons Bangkok, which has just opened
That
a little while
is
ago, I
right. I
believe.
forgot that. We are
Yeah.
very old friends. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, yes, that project I think took a little bit over a decade to complete, and I'm looking forward to, yeah, having a glance around there when we can make
Where
it
we
back
can
to
travel
Bangkok.
again. Yeah.
But yeah, subsequent to that, obviously, you know, you set out and founded the Great Room, which, as I was saying, you know, is probably the most refined, luxurious co-working operator anywhere in the world. You know, I always
Oh,
say,
you flatterer, you
not at all.
flatterer.
It's not flattery when it's all true. Um, no, you know, I always say, someone said to me a couple of years ago, they said, "Oh, you work out of the Great Room, Christian. So is that a little bit like WeWork?" And I said, no. You know, WeWork is like Holiday Inn, and Holiday Inn is fine, but you know, some of us prefer to stay at the Rosewoods, and that's what the Great Room is. So can you tell anyone who's joining this conversation a little bit about the Great Room and you know what it's all about?
Yeah, I
What's the
see a lot
elevator
of
pitch?
familiar names and like people in hospitalities who love hotel. Hello, Charles. Hi, Tina. I see a couple of people. So nice that you guys are here. So I think what I wanted to was to bring a little bit of that hospitality and that design into the workspace because we spend so much time at work. And why should workspaces be drab? We've all traveled lots. We eat in great restaurants and nice hotel. And we know these spaces evoke that magic and that feeling
Mm,
of meeting someone special, making you feel like you would puff up your chest or, like meet someone interesting, have a better conversation. So we really wanted to create a space that would give you that that feeling of a amped up conversation or casual collision, something that is the high value part of business. Because we know that high value part of business is meeting face to face, isn't
sure.
just behind a computer screen, which brings back to the current like work from home situation. Everyone's
Yeah.
like saying, oh, actually, it's pretty productive working from home. What do you think, Christian? How
Well,
is that for you?
I as you know, I keep repeating my own personal experience of, I think it was about 9 months before I moved into the great room, and the whole co-working concept is something I'd never even thought about until your PR company at the time, Vim and Vigor, invited me along to the opening event, and we bumped into each other and reacquainted. And I thought, yeah, this looks good to me. And
Not too
at that
shabby.
point, not too shabby. No, no. And at that point, I'd been working from home for I think it was about 9 months at that time. And as as a journalist and editor, I'm fortunate in that I can do what I do from pretty much
Anywhere.
anywhere, and yeah, it was fine working around my dining room table or at the small desk in my bedroom, which I'm back to doing again now. But yeah, no, I found the moment that I switched over to working out of the great room, and just that thing of getting up in the morning, getting dressed properly as opposed to schlepping around the house in an old t-shirt and a pair of shorts. Um, having that separation, that 20, 30 minutes of traveling to work, and
The
at the same time,
transition.
and the same thing at the end of the day, closing my laptop, packing my bag up, and going home. Though we all end up there's things blur a little bit, and we do end up doing a bit of work at home after we get home. There's more of a definition between the work time and the personal time when you're going to a dedicated workspace. Plus, I also found that working from home on my own, sitting around at home alone all day, it's isolating and it's lonely. Whereas just being surrounded by people in a co-working space, yeah, it was inspiring, and it yeah, as you say, and I ended up with clients, meeting people, meeting new friends. Yeah, so the benefits were definitely myriad, and that's why I think a lot of people are talking now about how they're loving working from home, and they think oh, working from home, this is pretty good, but most of them have sort of done it for maybe 60 days, or maybe it's coming up to 90 days, and I think when they get to being 4 months or 5 months or 6 or 9 months, perhaps the appeal will wear off a little bit, and they will want to get back out into the world.
Yeah, the truth is that no one wants to be in the office 24/7, but no one
Hmm,
wants to be at home like all the time as well. People are going to increasingly want to be in different environments, different workspaces, preferences, and employers, if they want to attract the right people and to have keep them motivated and productive, then they need to provide the variety and the preferences. And people have asked me, is this the end of offices? And I'm just like, no, I
yeah,
think it will change. It won't be in the same shape and form. Offices footprint might get smaller. Some people might work from home a little bit, but you can't replace that. See, the truth is that we are coping now. We can do it.
hmm,
We're
hmm,
coping, but we're not thriving because a lot of the times, I mean, if it's just 60 days or even 90 days, we are eroding the capital that we have built. People that we already know, we are already familiar, like you, like we've met many times. If we have a phone call, it's quite comfortable. We already know each other. But if it's somebody new, a new business or something else, it's hard to build that rapport and connection. And that's
absolutely.
actually very valuable. We are just wearing down that capital that we've built. What happens
Yeah.
6 months time? We don't have that anymore. I mean, if I
Yeah,
don't see you like anymore, like I'm gonna not feel the same, right?
well, no, and I think that's you make a very valid point, which is brought up all too little. Is that we're not just working from home at the moment. We're coping with
Yeah.
and depending on which part of the world that you're in, it's something where we're worried about our own well-being. We're worried about our loved ones' well-being. We're lonely. We're isolated. We're worrying about the impending global recession. If you're in the United States, God, you're worried about
Oh,
martial
so
law.
much.
You're worried
Yeah.
about, you know, um, so many potentialities. So yeah, but it's not. This is not the same situation as that 9 months where I chose to work from home. This is it's coping, as you say.
And now we have all the kids at home too. I mean, I know some of you may not have
Yeah.
kids, but Christian and I, we have kids, and I have four little ones. My oldest is
Mm.
it's 8, so
God.
they're at home,
Yeah.
and I live in this you know, black and white pre-conservation, pre-war house, and it's as charming as it sounds. We have wooden floorboards, so I hear everything all the time. All the time
Yes.
I hear footsteps, I hear like crying, screaming, quarreling, happy noises, play noises. So basically I it's a sensory overload, and then I need to continue to focus. And a lot of times I'm having either like, important conversations, lots of negotiations, and it's takes a lot. It's all in.
Look, speaking of, and something I've been reading a lot about lately is Zoom fatigue, and this particular new type of fatigue that we're all experiencing by having to do all of our dealings throughout the day in this kind of way, whether it's FaceTime or Zoom or digital conversations of whatever sort. And the findings seem to be that a conversation like you and I are having, of course, this is not terribly stressful, but if it is, and let's say there's a Zoom call for 6 people or 8 people, it's the equivalent of sort of a meeting around the boardroom table, that is incredibly stressful because you are always, you have to engage with the eyes and you have to be looking into the camera, and you've got some people who you're seeing very little of their body, and so you're getting very few cues of body language. How are you dealing with this new world of communication that we're faced with?
It's a double-edged sword, right? Like on one hand, doing Zoom, it allows you to pick up the breadcrumbs, I call it, right? Pick up all the cues, the body language, the eyes, and the state of how they're feeling, and
Mm,
easier to build rapport. But at the same time, when you're on Zoom, if you're on the other side, you need to look alert, you need to look engaged, because you're so worried that your body, it's or your face, it's like unknowingly transmitting something.
yeah,
So unknowingly there is a lot of fatigue because of the intensity, because you want to look engaged and you're trying to build rapport, so it's better but it's not. And then the other thing, and that's why sometimes we see, especially Asians, I think now we're getting better, but when we started the whole Zoom culture, a lot of us don't own our video. So if you're on one side, if you turn it on
okay.
and other people don't, so that's another different dynamic. There's all types of people who are really, conscious. So I think Zoom has just kind of, you know, opened lots of possibilities, but at the same time also added so much intensity and stress. And because we can be so efficient, I don't know about you, but I end up scheduling everything pretty back to back.
Really?
So sometimes it does mean there's no transition mode. That's what you were talking about. Like if you're going to work, you would
Yeah,
travel and you would dress up,
yeah.
you would have a coffee. There is a transition to go from one type of activity to another. But at home with Zoom, you could be going from something social, something learning, and then something like a difficult negotiation. You just do the whole chain and you would pack it back to back. I mean, I end up doing that without wanting to, because I can, and I'm a bit A-type. So, and then like 5 or 6 o'clock, I just feel like wow, like so much.
No, there's only so many of these calls I can do in a day. And you know, I
Yeah.
do watch my wife Tamsin, who is more of a high-powered executive than I certainly am, and probably has more of a schedule like yours, and it's a taxing experience. But look, jumping back from that, as you know, I had a conversation last week in one of these interviews with Paul Semple, who's half of
Yeah.
the design duo that was responsible for some of your iconic
I
spaces
see
here
some of the
in.
Hassel guys. Hi, Tam.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
good to have you. Good to have you watching. And one of the questions that I did ask Paul was his approach to sort of setting up this little, you know, mise en scène that we've got behind us for our for these digital conversations. What are your sort of essentials or your tips for that? You know, do you alter it, or is this what we're seeing now? This is kind of your de rigueur default setting for the background, or do you change it depending on who you're speaking with, or you know what you want to get across?
Yeah, my team knows it, and then a couple of them are here as well. Actually, this is the background. So this is the back of my wardrobe, actually.
Okay.
Um, and somehow it's worked out because it's just a plain dark timber background, and I have daylight that kind of floods in. So this is the point where it's most even light, and it looks quite, clean and nondescript, which is not too bad. It's a bit boring, but I think it's okay. It's effective. So I don't change around. But my desk where it is, I always call myself photosensitive. I'm very light sensitive, so I need good daylight, not too
Okay.
glaring, because there's a computer, so you need to have
Hmm.
quite even daylight, face the computer, see what you are, but it also allows the face to look good. So this is the tip, right? You want daylight and even daylight, not backlight. And that's how your
Oh yeah.
face looks the most real. You don't look gray, you don't look overly like, flat out and white. Yeah.
Did you read Tom Ford's hints for um, video conferencing that were on the New York Times a few weeks ago?
I I feel like I saw a post, but I haven't read the details. That sounds
It's no,
exciting from the most beautiful man in the world.
they're excellent. They're very
Okay.
good. They've become the stuff of legend. I think they've become the sort
Wow.
of yeah. So check that out. It's yeah, it's good stuff, and I would give that recommendation to anyone out there. But you know, going back to what you do and creating workspaces, work environments that are conducive to inspiration and to socialization and concentration and various other words that end with ION. How do you think all of that is going to change when when we emerge from this thing into a blinking with our eyes into a new world? How do you think what you do and how you create those spaces is going to evolve?
I'm actually really excited. I think one is we're going to care a lot more about wellness. It used to be quite a bit of a lip service, but I think people are really going to start thinking about the air that we breathe and kind of the things that we use, all of that. So wellness is one big one. Another one I would say, because people can be productive at home when they're going out, and if they're going to their workspaces, they are looking more than just effectiveness and productivity that they can do at home or anywhere on a computer. They're really looking for connection and kind of building that trust and rapport. So spaces need to allow that, amplify that, enhance that, or give opportunities for that.
Yeah.
So all the more when we go back and we return to offices, you need spaces that nurture all these casual collisions or help people more deeply engage with each other. And then I think the third thing is, because offices now need to be more than just perfunctory, it also needs to be a place that I always call it the modern agora. It needs to be a place of learning,
Okay.
learning from field experts, learning from peers, learning from people outside the industry, and creating that chemistry or that magic connection. And if a workplace can address all these three things and deliver on that, then that truly is the workplace that we would like to look forward to. But I would love that, and that's what we are actively researching on and working on and creating that. In fact, we're working with Joyce Wang, another a great hotel designer, on the next great room. And a lot of these themes, we are really digging deeper and just pushing the boundaries on that. That's for Robinson Road in Singapore.
Okay.
So
Jaelle, I think we're just losing connection with you for a moment here.
am I back?
Yes, you are now. Yeah. Okay.
Hi, Danny.
Welcome back.
I see you. Yes. But you got most of what I was saying?
Yeah.
Where did we
Yeah.
lose? Okay. Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
just a quick one. It's the wellness, it's deeper connection and spaces to nurture that. And the third one is the modern agora, a place of learning and learning from not books and not theories, but field experts and peers.
Do you think that there's a lot. I'm reading a lot about how many companies are obviously going to start to think, well, God, we don't need to have a whole office block, and a lot of our employees seem to be very happy and also very productive working from home or working out of other spaces that don't involve them coming to a central location. Do you think that's going to be? I don't know. It strikes me as perhaps that could be a great opportunity for co-working operators that these companies are going to be looking to have spaces that are a little bit more flexible, or where some of their staff can come in one day of the week or a couple of days of the week, or I don't know. Do you see that there's perhaps going to be some good opportunities that might come out of this situation and this rethinking of what the office space is and what it's all about?
I don't want to call it good opportunities because of how everything is unfolding and happening. But I
Yeah.
think with
Okay.
any kind of uncertainty, whether that be health and safety, like the pandemic, geopolitical, or like economic uncertainty, then it gives rise to people rethinking how they used to do things, like traditional real estate, right? So I truly believe that right from the beginning, even pre-COVID, that agility would be the only way to counteract uncertainty, just in general, any kind of uncertainty. Because if you don't know how the business outlook is, how many headcount you're going to have, where you're going to be, where the
Mm.
business, which geography, then you don't want to commit to 3 years. If I can't see in 3 years, isn't it unfair to think in terms of 3 and 5 years? Maybe I just can see 12 months, and maybe that's okay. Or at least a portion of my business I can see clearly in 12 months, and the rest I might see a longer horizon. So I think being more fluent in how we use, like, a long-term real estate to short-term co-working spaces, and also allowing people sometimes to work from home, from Bali, from Thailand,
Yeah.
could work. We focus on delivering impact and results and value, and not necessarily are you clocking in, are you sitting at your desk.
Yeah.
We've been
Yeah.
talking
Exactly.
about that for years, right? But I think this would be a great catalyst and accelerator.
I think there's, and I'm reading a lot about certain employees, and it's mostly on social media that I'm seeing people report, saying, "Oh, my boss is asking me to be more productive whilst working from home and get more done, because his or her thinking is that I don't need to commute, so I've got an extra, hour and a half in the day to work." When, as we were just discussing, this is a situation that we're coping through. It's not, and if we've got kids at home, yeah, that makes it difficult, certainly difficult to be more productive. I guess, and you've got also a lot of leaders who are falling back on micromanagement, or who are, I guess, constantly on the phone to their team and going, "What are you doing? Are you working? Are you getting your work done?" And then some who are, conversely, realizing, okay, if I set goals for my team, they don't necessarily need to be working at exactly 9 a.m. Like you say, clocking in and working 9 till 6 and having lunch between 12:30 and 1:30 or whatever it is. They can set their own hours. And as long as they're achieving their KPIs, then, all well and good. That's great. If they want to squeeze it all into 3 full working days and take, 4 days of leisure time, fine. So long as they're delivering what you want out of them.
Totally. I think we're long past the time where whatever time that we put in is equivalent to the results, right? And as leaders, I can imagine it's a bit unnerving because there's no visual cues and you're not talking to them, and sometimes it might go a whole week without talking to somebody from the team. But a couple of things that we've kind of tried in the Teams in Great Room and it's worked out well. One is so we use this method. It's called OKRs, which is objectives and key results. It's a framework that actually helped Google grow, and they've used it growing from like when they had like 8 employees to like 8,000. It's a little different from KPI. It's not related to pay or performance. It's about making sure that if we're all passengers on a boat, we all know that we're going the same direction, because there's nothing worse than you rowing hard and me rowing hard and we're going in opposite direction. So we're staying put. So it's about that alignment. And it's focusing on results. So that's one tool that we've kind of used it. We've been using it for almost just a bit over a year and getting into a good cadence about that. And then I think as a leader, and I say this as an almost reluctant leader, something that I've been learning to be and learning to do. It doesn't come naturally to me, but sometimes crisis kind of forge leaders. I believe in that too.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking, like, what does it mean to be a leader? And if you don't have your teams and people around you, how are you actually going to lead, right? So one thing I realize is this situation is very volatile and it's ever changing and it's very uncertain. People don't need us to know all the answers. You can't be knowing everything that somebody else, but people don't need all the answers, but people need you to be real and to be brave enough to say, actually, I don't know. But they also need you to decode it for them. Say, I don't know, but this is what we're going to do. This is the roadmap, and we're going to take a shot. Because you can't leave everything, open as well. So the ability to be a bit vulnerable, I think it's all right. It builds that trust. So being vulnerable is one. And I think this is also a situation that you cannot communicate enough. You almost have to over communicate. You have to say what you are thinking of. You have to talk to people and even pick up the phone and just talk about something not related to work to see where they are in the process and in the cycle. Could they be frustrated? Could they be depressed? Could they be integrating new information or ready to take the risk, or kind of just staying in a place of not knowing what to do and paralyzed with all the chores that's going on at home, because that's also happening to them. They're taking care of kids, parents, different dynamics, laundry, food. And then I think the third thing, it's also knowing that you're not alone, and taking the opportunity to let the C-1 layer of leaders to step up, to let them lead things. One of the things we did quite early on is to set up task force, and we deliberately did not let the team leaders or the kind of like usual functional heads lead that. We let the second layer of leaders take the opportunity to lead a cross-functional team on things that are important, whether that be collection of fees, whether that be like new marketing ideas or ways to pivot. But we did that early on. And I think these are the few things that have, that I'm working on and I'm learning and sharing with you guys. Haven't cracked it, but definitely working on it.
How do you keep a team as a cohesive team when they're not in the same space together? When they have been in the same space and they all know one another, but they're as it has been, they're going through 60 days of being entirely spaced out around the world. I mean, I guess that there's certain organizations that have always operated like that, right? And you've had a team who are everywhere, so it's not an entirely new thing. But anyway, I digress. How do you go about keeping the TGR team as a TEAM?
I think it's what I was talking about, formal and informal communication. So a little bit more over communicating. I write letters to the team a little bit more often. I pick up the phone, and we had a 60-person pizza party across Singapore,
Okay,
Bangkok,
yeah.
Hong Kong, and UK. So everyone at the same time had a pizza party with a pizza, and we quite, and the funny thing is, every city team actually presented a video. So even the micro teams had to create a video not being in the same space.
Uh,
So there were layers of things that we did, and that was quite early on in the circuit breaker. We were experimenting, so that paid off well, left a lot of nice, warm, fuzzy feelings. I don't think you could quite have the same level as being in the same space,
mm,
but there are little things that would draw people together. And I think it's also given us a chance to learn about one another in a different way, because we've been, even before each team meeting, we do a round robin of asking questions in quite a deliberate way, even if it's on Zoom. Like I would say, okay, what's the new superpower you learned in the last 2 weeks that you never knew you had? And then we really got to understand, what people were doing. Like it could be like, I learned to be a barber, I learned to cook. I never was be
okay,
able to cook, but
yeah.
now I can sous vide. So there are lots of things that we're learning, layers on them, and really understanding and look at them as and people. Sometimes when we're back in the office, we're so efficient, we forget about that.
Yeah.
But it's actually a great opportunity to almost slow down to be faster as a team, if it makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah. Do you think this whole experience is making you a better leader?
I think it's forcing me to become a leader and stepping up. I don't know if it's better, but I think the first step is knowing that I have no choice. I got to do it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that choosing, it's the first important step. And then if I realize that I got to do it, and if I'm not good, then damn, better get going. Better learn to be good. And that choice of like, I got to learn to be good, um, it's it's serving me well. Like I'm actively, looking to learn from people who are better leaders, looking for books, talking to my team, getting more feedback in general. So working on it.
Well, I often go back to there's an old saying that a calm sea, never a good sailor made. That if you're a sailor
Good one.
and you're just sailing on calm seas, you won't be.
Good one.
It's when you get out there amongst the big waves and the storms, that's what teaches you. And yeah, these crises, these storm clouds, it's inevitable. No one has calm sea forever, and it's by going through this stuff that yeah, you you find your metal. It's the same thing as another great quote, which I first heard from LL Cool J, the rapper, strangely enough.
Oh,
But
those are
he
the
said
best quotes.
it is only with the resistance of the wind that the kite takes flight, and that's true, right?
Yeah.
It's without the raging wind, then the kite's not up there in the air. So yeah, we need some
Ever
challenges.
the poet, ever the poet. So Christian, the thing is, I feel like it's more natural for me to be an entrepreneur, but that doesn't necessarily make me a leader. And the interesting thing is, as an entrepreneur, if you're doing everything right, it means that you're constantly poor connection note.
Yeah, so you're constantly, and then we lost you, I think, for a second
You're
there.
changing. So if you're actually
Yeah.
if you're doing something right and you're growing the business, then things are constantly in flux. And whatever that you were doing 6 months ago, you won't be doing it today.
Yeah.
And that's if you're doing everything right. So as
Mhm.
a leader, as a CEO, you're constantly changing. So the ability to learn becomes very important. How fast can you learn? How cheaply can you make mistakes and keep on reinventing? So the whole team and yourself need to be able to propel and keep learning. You will never be doing the same thing, which means you won't stay at being very good at something before you need to move again. So I think by definition, that there is that difficulty and that conflict. And I think it's okay to accept that.
No, and it's exciting, variety be the spice of life. Speaking of being an entrepreneur.
Hi, Simone.
Hi, Simone.
I'm just seeing people that are joining us.
Hi, Manny. Good to see you too. What brought you to become an entrepreneur rather than simply staying as an employee? I know you were initially in finance and also in development and working for developers. What led you to go out on your own and do your own thing?
It's not always as thought out as that. I think when I was 21, I would say with ignorance comes great courage. I jumped into it. So the Great Room is actually my third entrepreneurial venture. It's not the first one. So a lot of it's the energy and the propulsion of like I don't know what I could screw up, and I think I have many crazy ideas. And they come at a crazy rate. And my friends would say, okay, you need to stop telling me your ideas. Just put a jar and keep putting ideas. You only get to tell me ideas that are numbered. They are 8. They are ranked 8. Otherwise, just like zip, shut up. And I have a like a method that I follow, which is if I have a crazy idea and I can convince 5 friends who are smarter than I am to put skin in the game, whether that be time invested in my business model or money or resources or giving me an important connection, if that happens, then I'm going to invest more time. Then the idea has legs and it has a chance. So I think that helps me differentiate the stupidity and the ignorance. But you need a little bit of ignorance to say, I'm gonna jump in, I'm gonna make it work. Look, if everyone thinks it's gonna work and everyone's saying yes, then the idea is probably not that original and the stakes are not high enough or worthwhile enough to do it. So there's some naysayers and 5 friends who are smarter than you. That's the formula. Or so I think.
Absolutely. Well, and I'm curious. To me, as I say, when I first met you and when I first well, not when I first met you, but when I first walked into the Great Room and learned about the whole co-working concept, which I had not really, wasn't really familiar with. But it seemed so obvious, and yet it was something that had never really been done before. Why do you think that is? Why do you think it took until the mid 2010s or 2010s or whatever it was for this whole concept to really catch on?
Isn't it? It felt really obvious to me as well. I don't know. I mean, that's the truth. It was obvious to me, but even as we were starting and putting a co-working space in a grade A office for grown-ups and putting in all that great design and the hospitality layer, people didn't believe it. I mean, landlords, owners of buildings felt that it was silly because co-working should belong in industrial places and compromised buildings, suboptimal buildings. They felt it was something for startups. They didn't feel like non-startup type businesses or people would want great energy, great environment, thoughtful design, but still get their work done. And now as we articulated, I agree. It's obvious.
Yeah. And I know that you've been very successful, not only with startups or with solo entrepreneurs or freelancers and what have you, but are also doing quite a bit of business on the enterprise side, where you're setting up flexible spaces for larger companies, which I think is something that people don't automatically associate with when they hear of co-working. They do think of startups and foosball and free beer Thursdays or whatever. Though thankfully you have those as well. But they do have a different concept of it, as you say, that it's raw industrial spaces and very very scrappy. But now, things have changed, right?
Yeah, very, very much so. I think for these big companies, it's almost even harder to build that culture. And
Mm.
sometimes it could be big companies with quite small presence in Singapore, or they could just need that extension of their office or deliberately not want certain teams to be in the headquarters. Lots of reasons why people would be in a flex working space. And a lot of people are constantly surprised the kind of members that we have. We we have, for a while, we so right now we still have FTSE, we have HSBC, we have
Mm.
Prada, LVMH. They're all companies that you wouldn't naturally thought like, oh, don't they have their own offices?
Yeah.
The truth is sometimes in a country it could just be a rep office, a marketing team of like 30, 40. They may not want to build up their own. You save
Yeah.
your capital outlay and you immediately plug into a community that you feel akin to.
Yeah. Yeah, and lots of big companies are, I'm reading, even putting in, just a few of their staff on hot desk to give them that more inspiring environment rather than them being stuck in a corporate
Yeah.
office and getting that groupthink. So getting outside of that groupthink, right, and having a be exposed to new ideas and new people.
Yeah, totally. And I think like work, uh, work used to be just in front of the computer, but now there are
Mm.
times that you actually want a place to contemplate, a place of reflection. Other times, I know that if I'm feeling a little bit stuck on something, I like to walk around in the drawing room, just that infectious energy that I get. Even if I don't end up chatting with anyone, I walk around, I grab a coffee, I want that energy. So there are different times of the day that you kind of want to be in different types of workspaces. It could be
Yeah.
alone, it could be with others anonymously, or working alone together, which I sometimes like and
Mm.
do when I
Yeah.
hot desk. Um, Maybe I need to motivate myself because everyone's working as well. I just want to sit beside it, but I don't know them. I may not be chatting.
No, I said the same thing to Paul Sample when he and I were speaking last week. Is one of the things that I love is, and in previous working environments when I have had my desk and my office, and I'm a Cancerian, I think, so I build sort of a shell of
Ah,
accumulate all of my stuff around me, and really build that, end up kind of hoarding all sorts of things around me. Whereas I love the freedom at the great room of being able to sit at this type of desk one day, or then move
yeah.
and sit on a couch and have a coffee while I'm doing something else there, and then sit in more cafe style seating as opposed to, anyway, I love that. That variety keeps things inspiring. And speaking of, I think the last thing that I want to really talk with you about today is for those people who are going to be stuck at home, or given the opportunity to work from home for the next 6 months or the next 12 months, or until they retire and die. Um,
That's
what
bleak.
just to bring a little darkness into the conversation. Must be because the storm clouds are gathering outside. No, I'm curious. I want your advice on what you have done, in your own space, creating a conducive workspace at home, or what advice you would give to people who now are going to have to work from home to create a kind of, the great room standard or quality of environment for themselves in their home space.
I think the great room standards is a bit of a tough one, but we do have amazing
Okay,
Zoom
sure.
backgrounds that you can put and look like in a great room because so much of it is the
No,
energy.
that's,
It's not
yeah.
just the stuff and the things, but it's the energy. But I mean, a couple of things and also principles from the great room, right? First is we don't use system furniture. It's not very
Yeah.
human. So when we kind of design spaces and use like furniture, we think of using real materials, and real materials has a real connection as well. You actually feel comfortable and real. And I think that also puts your mood kind of right to get productive. Daylight, I talked about it. Daylight's always
Mm,
important, especially it affects mood. Vitamin D, sunlight, it's so crucial. And that's the other
yeah.
thing. I don't always put sunscreen at home. It's a terrible habit, but I think that vitamin D and the sunlight makes a big difference. A little bit of plan always help. That makes me happy, feels a bit special. So I have a few triggers to create transitions for myself. We talk about that and not having transitions. It's for me, it's usually a music. So I either put on something to switch modes and mood, or it's a drink. So it signals different time for me. Like if I need to get into that 3 o'clock productive mode and crank through something, I have coffee.
Okay.
But in the morning, I either have like a bone broth or ginger tea. And then about now, I might just transition into a drink to tell my mind that, okay, we're switching off.
Yeah.
So little tricks to put yourself in either connecting mode, productive mode, or a writing mode. The
Hmm.
other thing is I try to schedule things in batches. I know they're not necessarily kind of physical environment, but it helps my productivity. So I might crank out stuff, but when I'm writing or reviewing design, I need a chunk of time to get deep work done. Because the addition of like 4 times half an hour, it's not equivalent to 2 hours. You
No.
sometimes need that flow and flux to crank it out. So protect that, schedule that, and schedule rest. Absolutely, like schedule rest as you would everything else. Otherwise, I think it becomes a blur and just a flux of work and non-play. It's not even play. It's like work and non-play and
Yeah.
non-rest.
Yeah. I often had people saying to me when I was working from home, "Oh my God, Christian, I don't know how you work from home. I would just sit there all day watching Netflix or drifting off into YouTube videos." And I think I would never dream of switching on the television during the day. I don't think you can do that. I don't think you can go like, okay, I'm just going to go away and watch 3 episodes of Better Call Saul, and then I'll make that time up later tonight. You've got to kind of keep it in those blocks, don't you?
Yeah, totally. We don't have TV at home, which helps. So
Okay.
my kids and us, we've kind of not have that digital thing, but it does mean there's more occupying of them. Like we need to do stuff and have activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we finish up, if anyone who's listening has any questions, please do send those through now. I'm sure Jaelle or I would be happy
I
to
love
answer
questions.
any of your questions. Do you have any questions for me, Jaelle?
Um, I have so many questions. Can you tell me the top tip of that, like that, what you said in the Tom Ford article? What's the top tip? Give us one or two.
The top tip for...
Yeah, from the Tom Ford article that you were talking about from New York Post.
Oh God,
Share one
okay.
or two things.
It well, the memorable one for me is it finishes out with him saying lots of powder, which of course I can't do, but he says lots of powder. Lighting, picking your good
Yeah.
side and having the lighting just off to the good side. So I guess having a lamp, and he says have it just behind your laptop and off to whatever that good side is, just angled off a little bit. Obviously lifting up your camera, whether it is whether that's on your laptop or on your phone, getting it up to kind of eye level.
I was just going to say, you
Or a
do
little
that
bit
very
above.
well. You frame it very well. And I actually, one of the few times that I feel like you're looking at me and I feel like there's a lot of comfort and rapport and connection. Tell us how
Yeah,
you did that.
well, I don't want to. I'm not going to show it to you guys, but I do have.
Behind the scenes.
Yeah, I have my laptop sitting on a big pile of board games and coffee table books here. So yeah, it's on top of Pictionary and Scrabble and Monopoly and the Ralph Lauren book and Terence Conran and Andy Warhol and various other things. But yes, just bringing my laptop up to the right level. You see so many people who've kind of put their phone or their laptop down. You can't even see it, but quite low. So then you're looking up their nostrils, and they've got a double chin, and yeah, it's really not flattering. But I highly recommend yeah, looking up that that Tom. It's a short article, but it's invaluable information for anyone who's doing a lot of these sorts of sorts of calls now. But I feel like now I've sort of opened the curtains to backstage and given away too many of the secrets.
No, I think we love secrets. We love tips. Last question, and I think we should wrap up and let people go grab their drinks. But what are you looking forward to most when you can be free, when you can go back?
Best laid plans of mice and men, but my plans this year were really to do a lot more kind of wellness focused projects and traveling, and I had plans to go to this wonderful place in India and do sort of a 2-week retreat there and get myself healthy and drink less gin and meditate and do Pilates and all of that sort of good stuff, which I normally don't do. So I had a lot of those sorts of plans, and I would like to just say that they've been placed on pause. My big plan for this year was to take the family to Africa and go and stay at a couple of beautiful reserves there called Singita. I always pronounce it incorrectly, but they've got some amazing properties there, and I've still got my fingers crossed that maybe we'll get to do that. But look, it's travel. I just want to get away somewhere. Near term, I just want to hop in my swimming pool, which is outside, and that has been off limits. It's a real first world problem. I feel like a complete dickhead.
So far.
I feel like I feel really bad whinging about that, but I walk outside my little house here and see the common swimming pool that we've got, and it's got it's taped off like police line, do not cross, and we're not allowed to hop in yet, which, as people might imagine, in 35-degree 99% humidity heat of Singapore, which you and I know, but people elsewhere might not. A swimming pool it's a necessity. It's having the occasional dip. So short term, really looking forward to that. But yeah, getting away, getting on a plane again, just getting on a plane and going somewhere. Obviously, seeing my parents. I think that's kind of that's the hard thing, not being able to fly out of here and see my parents down in Australia. But hopefully the travel bubble will open up from Singapore to Australia and New Zealand and a couple of other countries. And
looking hopeful.
Yeah, we'll get that. It is looking hopeful. But Jaelle, it's been an absolute delight to speak with you, as always. And
pleasure, it's mine. I had fun. My first one. I was so nervous, but thank you for making it super fun. And thanks everyone for joining in and kind of like sending encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. Join us tomorrow for another in my ongoing series. But until then, Jaelle, great pleasure. And I will see you soon. I look forward to joining you for a sundowner drink at around this time at some point in the near future.
See ya.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.